Have you ever felt like a stranger in your own mind, as if the thoughts that guide you don't fully belong to you? What if the way you see the world sharp with logic, warm with emotion, vivid with detail, or shimmering with possibility was never entirely your choice? We drift through life assuming we know ourselves, believing our decisions are ours alone. Yet beneath the surface, unseen currents pull us, shaped by forces we rarely question: parents who praised practicality, teachers who rewarded conformity, a world that demands we fit its mold. Carl Jung saw something deeper, a hidden architecture within every mind. He believed we're not just random collections of habits, but vessels for ancient patterns, thinkers carving reality with reason, feelers weaving it with empathy, sensors anchoring it in the now, intuitives chasing what lies beyond. Imagine a child who dreams in colors no one else can see, scolded for living in her head. Or a boy who feels every slight like a wound, told to toughen up until he learns to hide his heart. Society doesn't just shape us, decides which parts of us are allowed to breathe. Over time, we wear these expectations like a second skin, forgetting they're not our own. Jung argued that within each of us lies a dominant lens, thinking, feeling, sensing, or intuition coloring how we meet the world. But what happens when the lens you've been given doesn't fit? When you've spent years squinting through someone else's prescription, might feel it as a quiet ache, a sense that life shouldn't be this exhausting. Decisions falter, relationships strain, and moments of joy slip through your fingers like sand. The thinker builds walls of logic, dismissing tears as weakness, while the feeler drowns in emotion, lost when asked for cold answers. The sensor clings to what's real, stumbling in the abstract, while the intuitive soars so high they forget the ground exists. Yet Jung didn't stop. There he saw these traits splitting further, outward or inward, like light bending through a prism. An extroverted thinker organizes the chaos around them, while an introverted one dissects the chaos within. Picture the extroverted feeler, a maestro of human connection, reading every glance in a crowded room. Then the introverted feeler, silent but resolute, guided by a compass no one else can see. The extroverted sensor dives into life's raw pulse of every sound, every texture, while their introverted twin builds a cathedral of memory, revering what's been, and the intuitive. One chases endless horizons. The other peers into time itself, seeing what hasn't yet arrived. But here's the twist. You're not just one of these, you're all of them, layered like echoes in a canyon. Your dominant trait leads a steady hand on the wheel, while the others whisper from the shadows. What you ignore matters as much as what you embrace. That neglected intuition in a sensor's mind, that buried logic in a feeler's heart too festers, unnoticed, until it erupts in ways you can't predict. Jung called this the inferior function, the weakest thread in your tapestry, yet the one that could unravel everything. For the thinker, it's emotion slipping through the cracks. For the intuitive, it's the present they can't quite grasp. It's not a flute's, a signal, a call to look where you've refused to look. Because the parts of yourself you've locked away don't vanish. They wait, patient and restless, for you to claim them. Have you ever snapped at someone and wondered where the anger came from? Or hesitated over a choice your mind couldn't justify, yet your gut screamed to follow? These aren't accidents, they're glimpses of what Jung named the shadow, the unseen half of you society taught you to bury. Every time you were told to be less sensitive, less dreamy, less rigid, you fed it. The shadow isn't evil, it's raw, unpolished, human. It's the selfishness you deny, the fear you mask, the creativity you've forgotten you once had. Most of us spend our lives running from it, pretending we're whole without it. But Jung believed that wholeness, true individuation, comes only when we turn and face what we've shunned. Imagine a thinker who learns to weep, not as weakness, but as strength. Or an intuitive who plants their feet in the dirt, feeling the weight of now. This isn't about becoming someone else, it's about becoming more of yourself. Every jagged edge and hidden spark. The world rewards the polished, the predictable, but Jung saw beauty in the messy, the real. Relationships fracture when a sensor demands facts from an intuitive's dreams, or when a feeler's warmth meets a thinker's frost. But what if understanding these differences turned clash into harmony? In work, an extroverted sensor thrives in chaos, hands stained with effort, while an introverted intuitive wilts there, craving silence to weave their visions. Knowing this doesn't just save you from the wrong path, it lights the right one. Even the way we solve problems bends to these patterns thinkers dissect. Intuitives leap, sensors test, feelers weigh the human cost. Alone, each falters. Together, they build something unbreakable. Yet we misunderstand Jung too often, boxing his ideas into tidy labels INFP, ESTJS, if we're static, finished things. He saw us as rivers, not stones, flowing toward something greater. Individuation isn't a destination, it's a journey inward, peeling back the masks you didn't know you wore. It's not self-help, self-reckoning, a quiet rebellion against a world that wants you small. Think of the last time you felt truly alive, logic clicking into place. A connection igniting, a detail sharp against the blur. A possibility unfolding like dawn. That wasn't chance. It was your mind reaching for its own truth. But how often do we silence that reach, molding ourselves to fit the noise outside? We trade authenticity for approval, not realizing the cost is our own soul. Jung whispered a radical idea. You're not meant to be one thing. Not meant to choose between reason and passion, earth and sky. You're meant to hold them all, contradictions blazing, until they forge something new. The privilege of a lifetime, he said, is to become who you truly are, not the version others carved. Not the echo of their voices, but you, unfiltered, unguarded. How many of us chase that privilege, and how many settle for the shadow of it? Look at your life. Where do you feel at home, and where do you stumble? Those stumbles aren't failures, they're invitations pulling you toward the pieces you've yet to embrace. A feeler who masters logic doesn't lose their heart, they sharpen it. A sensor who dares to dream doesn't abandon reality, they expand it. This isn't easy. The mind resists, clinging to what's familiar even when it suffocates. But beyond that resistance lies freedom, a clarity that hums beneath the skin. We're not broken things to be fixed, not puzzles with missing pieces. We're unfinished symphonies, waiting for every note, high and low, loud and soft to play. Jung's gift wasn't a map to follow, but a mirror to hold, reflecting not just who you are, but who you could become. And the deeper you look, the more you see. There's no limit to that becoming. So here's the question that lingers, heavy and alive, begging for your voice. Which part of yourself are you ready to meet? The one you've known forever, or the one you've never dared to know?